Hello, this is Matthew Randall, and welcome to another recipes in procedural rendering. This time we're going to have a look at noise and how we can use noise to kind of make our materials look a little bit more natural. So the first example we're going to look at is with some glass. So here I've got a model of a glass, and I'll just let it render in the background while I'm talking. So here I've got a model of a glass, and what I want to do is let's just have a look at some reference images of a glass. So I'm just going to go in here. If we look at glass very closely, you'll see that it has like a kind of ripple to it. It's not a completely kind of flat, even surface. And also, if you look closely as well, you'll see that it's got these kind of micro dots as well. So we can simulate both of these aspects as bump maps using noise. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in fact, I'm going to stop this render and let's just add some noise in. So I'm going to put in a noise node, AI noise. So I'm going to use the AI noise node, and then what we need to do is put this through a bump map. So I'm going to use a 2D bump map. Okay, 2D bump. I'm just going to type in bump and it should come up. AI 2D bump. Okay, so I'm just going to put the color through the bump map, and then the bump map. Hang on, let's try again. The color through the bump map. In fact, I'm going to have to pick one color to go into the bump map. Color into the bump map, and then the bump map into our normal camera. Okay, great. Let's see what result we've got now. And you can see that we get quite a convincing ripple effect straight out of the box. Let's see what we can do to kind of refine this. One of the things that's quite useful to be able to do is to preview the noise inside this material viewer. What I'm going to do is, in order to do that, I actually need to switch my renderer back to viewport 2.0 because I can't. I actually need the Arnold renderer to render out the noise here. So if I'm rendering here, it won't update here. Just something to be aware of. For some reason, if I use the hardware renderer, I just get black. I don't know whether there's a compatibility issue, but if I use the Arnold renderer, it all works. Okay, it might be because I'm using the AI nodes, but yeah. Okay, so continuing on, let's have a look at our AI noise and how we can kind of refine the settings on that then. So yeah, this looks pretty good, and what I might do is, all I'm thinking is I might just kind of reduce down just the intensity of it. Just bring, so at the moment it's kind of going from black and white. If I bring these two closer together, that might just sort of reduce the intensity of it. In fact, if I just demonstrate here, if I bring up the octaves, what I can do is this kind of gives me a more detailed noise, and in fact I might just go with 2 octaves rather than 1 octave, and lastly just obviously makes the noise just increases the kind of the amount of noise that's there, or the kind of repetition of the noise. If we go here, you'll see the kind of noise looks kind of more zoomed in, whereas if I come back out, you can kind of see it's like zoomed out a little bit. Does that make sense? So obviously we want quite a low frequency noise here, so we're going to just, it's almost, yeah, this is basically your frequency of noise here. We want a very low frequency of noise here, so I'm going to kind of dial this back in, and I've got kind of 2 octaves just to kind of make it look a bit more natural. Again, I'm just going to pull these a bit closer together. So that's your general main things that you want to look for in terms of using noise on your renders. Okay, now let's have a look what this looks like in Arnold. And the main thing I'm looking at here is really the sort of effect on our reflections here is the main thing that I'm looking for, to kind of get an idea of how this is kind of coming together. And I feel like I might have sort of dialed this down so much that this isn't having much effect. let's just see. If I just disconnect this, in fact, what might be useful, in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and actually just, I'm going to stop using this renderer. And I'm going to use the main renderer, main Arnold renderer here. Now, the reason I just want to use the standard Arnold renderer rather than trying to render it in the workspace is it allows me to take some snapshots. Okay, in fact, I'm just going to delete these snapshots because we don't need those. Okay, so it allows me to take some snapshots. So this is without the bump map, so I'm just going to let that render. And what this allows us to do then, we can render it with the bump map and without the bump map, and we can kind of compare what kind of results we're getting. Okay, so it's not completely rendered, but I've rendered enough here to get an idea of it. So this is without the bump map, so I'm just going to go View, Store Snapshot. So we've got a snapshot of that we can go back to. I'm now just going to reconnect this back to our normal camera and then just see what we've got. Because I've got a feeling that I've kind of made the bumps so small that they're not really having much effect. Let's re-render. And then we can kind of compare what we've got and see if we're getting the right effect. Okay, I'm just going to pause the render, pause while it's rendering. Okay, and actually to speed things along, what I've done is I've just highlighted this area to render out, so we can kind of just preview this area and see what it looks like on this area. So what I'm going to do is just go, we'll take another snapshot. Let's just kind of compare what we've got. So it doesn't really feel like it's making a huge amount of difference. So that feels like we need to kind of up the amplitude of this. So I'm just going to click onto this, and where I've brought these closer together, we could up the amplitude here, but we've brought these quite close together. So what we can do is just spread those apart a little bit more, and hopefully that will kick off another render, and we can see what that looks like. In fact, I'm just going to come off the snapshot there. We can still try and get a more pronounced effect. It is starting to have an effect now. You can kind of see here between them. You can kind of see between these snapshots that you are getting a bit more kind of fluctuation and bend here. What I might do is I'm just going to up the amplitude, sorry, the contrast between the colors that have been generated here. And what I'm also going to do is just scale this up. Scale up the noise a little bit as well. Okay, let's see what effect that has. Right. Okay, that seems to be having a little bit more effect now. Again, I'm just going to pause while it renders. Okay, let's see what that looks like compared to our other snapshots. So you can... oh, did I actually... in fact, actually, I'll need to take a snapshot of that. I'm just going to go View... Store Snapshot. Okay, let's have a look what that looks like. So you can see this is definitely having more of an effect now. You can kind of see that that's having a ripple effect here. I'm kind of interested what it looks like actually on this side of the glass here. So what I might do is just quickly, I'm just going to again just hold shift and just select this area here and let it render this side out and see what this looks like. What I don't want to do is I don't want the effect to look too pronounced. And this seems to be where the light is picking up that effect more than elsewhere in our image. Yeah, I feel like we were looking at the wrong area of this glass, because actually looking at this area, the ripple looks really quite strong and overly exaggerated. So even though we're not kind of seeing much here where we were looking before, we see quite a lot there. So I think actually I think we want to just kind of dial this down a little bit. So I'm just going to go and again just bring these in. I'm going to keep it the scale to 2. I'm just going to bring this in, and I think hopefully that'll give us something that looks a little bit more natural. I'm just going to let that render. So I think that kind of gives us the sort of effect that we're after. Again, I'm just going to do a snapshot. View, Store Snapshot. Let's just compare that against what we originally had. Yeah, so I think that's just giving us just that extra bit of ripple, and I think that's not too much. So we're going to stick with that. Now what I want to do is I want to create like the micro dots that we talked about. And then just to kind of remind you, it's these bits here that we were talking about. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to bring another noise in. So I'm just going to go AI noise. Sorry, noise. There we go. I'll just connect this up for the moment. Okay, and in fact, actually, I need to connect it to just one of those. There we go. I'll connect this up here for the moment. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to turn this render off for the moment so that I've got my renderer here. I can kind of see what the noise looks like. So if I solo this, I get an idea of what this noise looks like. So what I want is I want it to be a much finer noise. So I'm going to turn up the octaves a bit. Okay. Something like that. I'm going to turn up the larceny, so the scale or the frequency of it. Okay, we've got it kind of, that's fine. And what I want to do is I'm going to put it, one thing that's quite useful to do with noise is to put it through a range node. So a range node kind of allows you to kind of make adjustments to the values coming out of that noise. So if you imagine you've got these grayscale values, what we can do is kind of more finely adjust these grayscale values using this range node. So I'm just going to go range. Okay, again, just put set an input, and we're going to take an output. Okay, fine. So this is our range node, and then let's have a look. I just want to have a look at the output of the range node at the moment. So at the moment, the range node isn't doing anything. These are attributes for our range node, and what we can actually do is kind of adjust the output. So for example, if I say I want the output to be maximum output to be 0.5, it will rescale that entire range and sort of and reduce all the values to between that range. Okay, I don't want to do that just yet, although I might want to do that. So I'm just going to put it back to 1. Okay, one of the things I do want to do is have a look at. Sorry. Again, this didn't seem to update, so let's just check whether that's working or not. Yeah, sorry, Arnold just sort of froze up on me for a bit there. So, yeah, I've put that back to 1. One of the things I want to look at is contrast and what we can do with the contrast, okay? Yeah, I'm going to try and up the contrast because I want some kind of hard edges to what we're doing. But also what I want to do is I don't want to up it too much. I just want to kind of up it so I kind of get these holes. But what I want to do also is go back to my noise and just scale up the noise a little bit. So I might just, let's have a look at this, 8. I might even go higher than this. Yeah, this looks like the right direction. So we've got these kind of pockets, these pocks here that are going to be kind of little kind of dips in our surface. So that's looking really good. What I'm going to do is I might just kind of increase that even more. Okay, and let's just have a look at the effect of octaves on that. I think that's not having a huge impact. That's just, yeah, okay, so we just get more detail in there, that's fine. Okay, let's have a look what that looks like on our model now. Okay. So you see straight away this is generating a lot of noise. The thing is, we're getting all that kind of fine detail. That's really good. But actually, what we need to do is we need to kind of reduce this right down. So we've got a couple of options of things that we can do. We could do it in the bump map. I want to avoid doing it in the bump map because I'm going to actually combine these two noises and go through the bump map. So again, this is where we can kind of come back to the range tool and use the range tool to kind of refine things a little bit. So if I go into the range tool here, what we can do is kind of clamp things. So we can say, okay, the maximum output is, say, 0.1. Let's have a look what that looks like. Okay, so that's looking better. So you can see this range tool is really useful for helping us have that extra control over the noise and what the noise looks like. Again, I think this is too much, so I'm going to put that down to 0.1. I think this is kind of getting towards what we want. Again, what I'm going to do is just focus on a particular area in our render, just so our render is a bit quicker. Again, I'm just going to use this area. This seems quite a good area to kind of see the details that we're interested in. Okay, so you can kind of see, yeah, we're kind of getting that kind of micro noise that we're interested in. That seems to be coming through now. I'm just going to pause while it renders. Okay, so I think that's looking in the right direction. We could refine this a little bit more, but I'm going to stick with that. I think that's doing really well. And basically, yeah, the key was we've added that contrast to our noise using the range tool. We've managed to kind of clamp down how extreme the values are using the range tool. And with the noise, obviously I've got a lot of octaves here, quite a high larceny in order to create the kind of small the fine noise that we want. And also, in order to create that fine noise, I've scaled up the noise as well. Okay, great. So what we want to do now is we want to combine these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the render for a moment, and it's going to disconnect that from here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a float composite node. So I'm just going to go here, float composite. Okay, and so basically what we're getting is we're getting float values from each of these noises. So from the noise here, and obviously I'm going to put it out of the range for this one. Okay, and then what we're going to do is connect that into our bump map. Okay, oh, hang on, sorry. Let's connect it into the actual bump map value. There we go. And let's see what we get now. Okay. So what we're doing is basically the two pieces of noises that we created, we're kind of combining those into our render. In fact, I'm going to turn this area off, and what I'll do is I'll pause while it renders. Okay, so so basically we started with this, and we've now ended up with this. And I think I'm quite happy with the result there. I think the micro noise is working really nicely. I'd be tempted to actually just increase perhaps the amplitude again of that bigger ripple, but I'm quite happy with that. Okay, I want to move on to a different example of using noise. Okay, so here I've got a LED model here that I created. What I've done is I've looked up the base color values and specular values for LED in the Arnold documentation and just put them in. So just put it into the base color and the specular color. So I've just put that into the base color and the specular color. I think I just kind of pushed the roughness up a little bit to get something that didn't feel too artificially shiny. And I've also added like a thin film. So this is quite a nice render, but can we make this look better? So what we're going to do is we're going to add just add some noise to the specular roughness property. Okay, so again, I'm just going to go into graph input outputs. So this is our LED here. You can see it's already connected up to a bump map, texture map that's adding the detail of our creature here. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom this in so we can kind of see it a bit more detail. I'm going to add in a noise node, so AI noise, and connect that up to the specular roughness here. Okay. I need to just pick one of the values. So obviously it's some of these, obviously color is a combination of three values. And so often what we need to do is actually refine this to be a combination of, obviously this specular roughness only takes one value. Okay. So obviously we need to just take out one of the colors that it's generating in the noise area. Okay. So again, I'm just going to go into Material Viewer and press. Sorry. Yeah, I think because we've got a render going on here, it's struggling a little bit, so I'm just going to pause this render. What I'm going to do is, again, so we'll go into the material viewer. I'm going to switch it to Arnold, and then hopefully I can see the noise that's coming from this. I think this is what's focused at the moment. Let's try again. And plane. What I need to do is actually just shut down the renderer completely. Okay, so I can kind of see the noise that I'm creating here. So if I'm just going to quickly, I'll just do a render, and then we can kind of see what's going on. So effectively, basically, the all we want is a very subtle difference. So what we don't want is the roughness of our model being completely uniform. We just want to introduce a really subtle difference here. So a lot of the time, what we're doing is real subtleties, and you can see here we've got far too much of an extreme difference between, you know, our shiny areas and our roughest areas. Okay, so let's turn that off. So basically, if we go into here and let's have a look at what we want to do. I'm going to put 2 octaves in there just to kind of make it look a bit more natural. Okay, but the main thing that we need to do is really is close these 2 points in. Okay, that's the main thing that we need to do, so that we're not getting such a variance across between the areas of roughness that we're looking at. And I think we want to kind of put it in this area. Let's have a look what that looks like. Okay, so we'll do another render. Okay, so that's quite shiny, so I think what I might do is just pull that up a little bit. See what that looks like. Might need to pause and just re-render. There we are. There we go. Okay. So hopefully what you'll see now is that rather than it being kind of a uniform roughness, just this slight addition of noise kind of makes this model, the render of this model, just look a little bit more natural. Okay. Again, we could close these a bit closer together. I'm kind of tempted to kind of bring that a bit closer together. Yeah, I think that's working well now. So again, it's just another example of where you could apply noise, but you could apply noise to all sorts of attributes to kind of make them look more sort of natural and less uniform. And obviously, to make it look even more natural, you can kind of layer up different noise layers as well. Okay, hope you enjoyed that.